That was amazing. I want to hear more. Can I hear more? Can you just give me? Oh, it's good to be here. It's good to see everybody, see your beautiful faces this morning. And I was chuckling with Jody earlier as the snow started, and we're like, oh, look at the snow. It's so big. And we're like, we're Minnesotans. But it's still so beautiful. And I just felt like it kind of created a little grief blanket around us this morning. So, but thank you for that introduction, Jody. And people don't ask me why I do hospice care now, but they ask me how did that come about, going from labor and delivery, from birthing to death and dying. And I've shared this before, and I'll briefly share, but 2.5 years ago, my mom was in hospice, and 5 days. And she was waiting till the very end to do everything. And she, those 5 days, intensely said to me over and over again, Debbie, you gotta do something in this hospice thing. And I'm listening to her, and after a few days, I'm like, Mom, I said, I can barely get my head around your hospice. I said, I do something totally opposite. I don't understand. And she said, you will. And the day after she made her transition, she showed up to me 3 times in 4 hours. And I said, I got it. I get it, but I'm not going to chase it. I'm not going to run after it. I'm going to allow it to show up. And then I'll know that it's what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's what I'm doing now, Hospice Compassus. Compassus is compassion in Latin. And I'm the spiritual care advisor for them, and I help families educate them on the naturalness of the dying process. Although today's talk is not about dying, it kind of lets you know how I got here, how I came to actually be doing this morning, but there's a little bit more to it than that. So what is the in-between? What is that space between? What does it mean to you? Think about that. To me, I believe that that space between is every moment, every present moment of my life. Not every moment, but every present moment. Think about all the moments in our lives, all the moments in our minutes, and our hours, and our months, our weeks, our years. Seems like an infinity, but we know that's not so. We know that that is just our little span of life. What if we just doubled our present moments? Think about how many times we're actually present. What if we doubled those present moments? How would our lives look? How would that space in between look? The last time I was here, I talked about ego, our ego cells, and befriending our ego as our soul's mate. Do you remember that? And I asked you all to go out and make a friend with your ego. I hope some of you did that, because I'm going to bring that up a little bit more in this talk as we move through, because it plays such a huge part in how we move through this lifetime we've been given, right? Ego. So, the slide actually is on something miraculous happens when you're patient. There we go. Something miraculous happens when we're patient. As human beings, we tend to be impatient, right? So I'd like to share my story, a piece of it. Some of you have already heard it, but it has a relevance to how I move through my life and why something was given to me and how it came about through patience eventually that I'm doing what I'm doing. Is that okay? You guys have heard it before? Okay. And I think about ego self, how it empowers our impatience if we allow it, right? So my youngest son, who's now 23 years old, Devin, he was born really ill with a liver disease, and I'll skip through a lot of that, but had many, many surgeries. He had a liver transplant at 5. He had lymphoma at 8. And at age 11, I think around by that time, he probably had about 25 surgeries. We stopped counting at 40. but he needed a serious surgery, about an 8-hour surgery. He was about 11. And we did these down at Mayo at Rochester, and he was in surgery, and I went down to the St. Mary's Peace Garden, and it was summertime, and I was sitting on the bench, and I was praying, and I was saying, God, just get me through one more of these. You know, one at a time, 1 hour at a time, one recovery at a time, one why mom, why me at a time, you know? And as I sat there, I was basking in the sun, and it was warm, and I could hear everything going on around me. I wasn't sleeping. I knew what was happening around me. And you know, when you're looking at the sun and it's really bright, so you have to kind of squint, you know, it can hurt. I was doing that, and all of a sudden, the yellow sunlight became so white. And I was no longer struggling to squint. It was so bright and so white, and I couldn't open my eyes. But I knew that I wasn't sleeping. You know, when you wake up in the morning, you have those kind of dreams where you're trying to wake up, you know, and then you just kind of let yourself go back to sleep and finish, and you have those really lucid dreams. So I'm moving toward this light, and at first I was resisting it, and then I just was so curious, and I let go. And I just moved toward it, but I could see myself. I was back here watching myself move toward this light. And I was levitated off the ground, and I'm moving, and all of a sudden this incredible white light took form. And there was this liquid tree, and it was moving with vibration. It was white, and on the ends of the branches, I mean, it was just vibrating and moving. And on the ends of the branches were these fuchsia-colored discs. In my nursing background, I always described them to myself as red blood cells. But they were fuchsia, they were concave, you know, like a donut, but they didn't completely go through. And I was just mesmerized, and all of a sudden there was the biggest wingspan that you could ever imagine of an angel. Just embracing this tree and me and looking at me. And in that moment, when I speak about everything and nothing, there was everything and nothing. It was all the same. There was no before, there was no going forward, there was no hurt, no pain. It was like there didn't even need to be memories. It was so pure and so perfect, and she took my hand and she put it into this disc. And I felt the most amazing love. Thousands of times the love that we feel by the most loving person in our life. It was the most whole feeling. I was home. And I felt like I'd been there for an eternity. And it felt like I'd been there just like that. That's all it was. It was everything, up, down, here, there, in, out, all of it. And then I looked down, and I saw this little figure, and it had a white robe on. And the figure turned, and as the robe fell, it was my son, Devin. And just like E.T., he took my hand, my finger, and he said, "Go now. You go be who you're supposed to be." And like that, I woke up. But I wasn't sleeping. I was sitting there. I was dripping in sweat. It was like 85 degrees that day. And I said, "Oh my God, something just happened to me." But I ran into the hospital up to the 6th floor, I remember, and I sat in the surgery waiting room for a couple of hours, and the doctor came out, and he said to me, "He's going to be fine. We have a lot of work to do, but he's going to be fine, but we have to tell you that we lost him for just under 2 minutes." And I knew that what happened to me had something to do with what happened to him. And it wasn't until 2 days later, I'm sitting in bed with him, and we're reading a book, and I said, "Devin, I just got to tell you about this vision that I had. It was like a daydream, but I was awake." And I said, "It was just so amazing. And we walked to this light, and there was this incredible tree. It was moving with liquid and vibration, and there was these pink discs on it, and this incredible angel." And then I looked down, and he said, "Yeah, I know, Mom, I was in your dream." He brought me in his death experience to show me what that is all about. Why? As you can imagine, the days, weeks, years, because it's 12 years ago that happened to me. For years, I questioned, I looked in the mirror, I talked to my ego at the time seemed separate to me. Not anymore. I had to have patience. Because every day I said, why did I have this experience? Why would Creator, why would universal intelligence, God, why would you give me, Spirit, why would you give me this experience? If I don't know what to do with it, I don't know how to have an impact on anybody. Sure, I can tell somebody the story, but what? What is it for? What do I do with this? So I realized that my ego was really my ego self, and it was pushing me toward what felt good. So I befriended my ego, and I named her Eunice. And to this day, we hang out constantly. And I have that friendship, and I know when I'm feeling those triggers, those pain bodies, those things that don't make sense to me, that she's saying, Deb, go to the right, move to that which feels better. So I say all that to say that the patience of that, my mom telling me, go do something in hospice, years later, nudging me to that, and Devin bringing me into his experience, took years. But, you know, they say, the hurrier I go, the behinder I get. I think when you have spiritual patience, when you get patient, things happen faster. I've learned they happen faster. So, with all that said, express yourself. That's why I wore this today. Okay? I'm expressing myself. I'm going to continue to encourage you to do the same thing. So, Eckhart Tolle, he says, wherever you are, be there totally. And if you find yourself the here and the now that you're in intolerable and it makes you unhappy, you have 3 options. Remove yourself from the situation, change it, or accept it totally. Intolerable, unhappy. I mean, when I look at removing myself from a situation, sometimes that might be totally, that might be the best thing to do, but it might just be stepping back, being the observer, not being caught up in the pain bodies, be an observer of life, of what's going on. And wouldn't that be a change it? I mean, examples, there's all kinds, a plethora of examples. How about family dynamics? Anybody here got a family dynamic? Makes you unhappy, angry, frustrated? Yes? Sometimes we have to walk away from people. Sometimes we have to move away from them totally and be totally present with that. Sometimes we need to just step back and be the observer. But whatever you decide to do, if you accept it, you have to be in it totally, or it will make you miserable. That which you resist persists. I deal with acceptance totally every day. Terminal illness. Trying to stay alive is a lot of energy, and it's not living. So I encourage people, accept your illness totally and live. Embrace what's left and live. And I mean, that can be anything, but that's what I deal with every day, that total acceptance. And I see it change people's end-of-life experience as well. So go with the soul. Move toward that which makes you feel good. That thought, that highest feeling, that is the soul's language. Move toward that. And of course, be in service. We come here to serve each other. We come here to serve ourselves, and we cannot, we serve ourselves through serving others. Yes? Is that how that works? So being in service will change your life. And I know that a lot of you know what that is about. I think everybody does. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But so Wayne. We've come here to evolve our souls, and that happens through our conversations. It happens through our silence. It happens through our joy, through our sorrow. That's how we evolve our soul. The soul doesn't care. It doesn't judge. Every experience you have, whether it brings you joy, whether it brings you sorrow, no matter what it is, it's an evolution. We grow through it. Whether it brought us happiness or not, we will move through it. We grow through it. He says, if you ask with kindness in your voice and in your heart, how may I serve you? The universe response will be, how may I serve you as well? Knowing what is in that in-between is what you already know. It's the same as knowing what the in-between is. You have put that in there for yourself. And what is it? What is it for you? What are you passionate about? What gives you goosebumps when you think about it? Something that's familiar. Sometimes it's something that we think about it and we're like, why am I interested in that? Why does that come up for me? Why do I want to do that? Maybe you did it in other lifetimes. Maybe you sang in other lifetimes. You know, maybe you taught. Maybe you counseled. Maybe you did horses. You know, move toward that which makes you feel good. Know that there's a purpose. You're here on purpose. But I think we need to get on our own bandwagon and start moving, right? Right, Karen? We need to get on our own bandwagon because energetically, are you feeling a difference? Are you feeling something stirring your soul? Anybody here? You feeling something stirring your soul? I mean, create a space for spirit to speak and listen. And listen to that. And express yourself. So here we are. The quiet. The quieter you become, the more you will hear. Some will listen, some will hear, and some will hear nothing at all. Do you ever feel like that's you? This too is a choice. You are in the driver's seat. You are in control. Do you believe that? Do you believe you're in charge? Because you know what? It doesn't work unless you believe it. You are in charge of your own choices. You are in charge of creating, because nothing is happening to you in this life. Rewind that. Everything is happening through you. And if that is true, then you are the creator of your own desires. And I speak to desires, not wants. Because that experience that I had, that changed my life, I wanted to know what that meant. I wanted it to show up in a certain way. I wanted. All I got, all I manifested, was the experience of wanting. And the experience of wanting is pretty empty. Pretty frustrating, isn't it? But when you manifest through desires, that is joyful. That's exciting. That's inspiring. You just say the word desire. Say it out loud. I desire. I desire. Now say, I want. Feels different. Doesn't it feel different in your body? Listen to your body. It's talking to you all the time. And if you desire, you can manifest that. That changes the vibration. That is a higher vibrational level. You can align your desires and create a vibrational match for them. We've all done it. But I think we feel so often that it's so far and few between our manifesting, right? We get going, we get this vortex going, and things start showing up, and then, let's just say it, we get a little lazy. I think we get a little lazy sometimes. But it all comes down, always comes back to the quieter you become, the more you will hear. Create a space for spirit to speak and listen with your whole being. Be patient. It will prove to be virtuous in so many ways. Mind, body, and soul. So go with the soul and create your stage, your way. This reminded me this morning when I was looking at this. I have a friend, Lynn Sargison. Many of you may know her. I met her here at Unity. And we were doing a town hall meeting one time, and she stood up and she said, I'm God. I'm just expressing myself in this lifetime as Lynn. And I've never forgotten that. That must have been, 7, 8 years ago. And that is so true. We are expressing. What do you want to express? Express it. Be it. It's freeing. But it's your truth. And do it on purpose. Create your stage, your way. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? And who's with you? Who are you serving? How does that feel? Serving is not work. Serving comes from love. And if it comes from anything but love, it's not serving. So I say, let's go forward in courage and strength and love and light and our own truth. And find what that is, because if you're passionate about it, I'm telling you, it's a service. It's a service. So I'm going to do something, and the last slide, if you can find the comic person, that would be great. I like this. She says, if there's a secret to this life that I live, it is this. The sound of what cannot be seen sings within everything that can. And there's nothing more to it than that. So I'm going to do something, might be seem a little bit weird, so just bear with me. But I'm going to express myself. I'm going to sing a song, and I'm doing it to a CD because there was no just music to it. But this is a powerful, when you really listen to the words. Close your eyes if you're inclined, but the words are so powerful. And when I hear this song, I see myself back, which I do every day. I go back to that place when I went beyond here into the other dimensions. That's what this song represents to me. And it's from Conversations with God. And it goes like this.
Imagine a road, far as you can see, if you cast your eyes into infinity. For millions of miles, paths of yesterday, sure you traveled far, but never lost your way. In the name of love, put the blame on love. Right here all alone, nothing without wrong. In the name of love, you can put the blame on love. Pray your heart to take, it won't be worth the fuss. Truth is, there's only one of us. Imagine a light brighter than the sun, searching for its end from where it had begun. If the end of the road is never to be found, journey's destiny to find our common ground. In the name of love, put the blame on love. Right here all along, nothing without wrong. In the name of love, you can put the blame on love. Pray your heart to take, it won't be worth the fuss. away. You're near to the crowd, your heart becomes a whole, and I will speak the language of your soul. In the name of love, put the blame on love. Right here all along, there's nothing that could go wrong. In the name of love, put the blame on love. Pray your heart to take, it won't be worth the fuss. Truth is, so there's only one of us.
Close your eyes. Listen.
I love you.
Open your heart. Open your mind. Come alive. Listen. Express yourself. Listen. Be totally where you are. You are peace. You are patience. You are courage. Feel it in your body. Feel it. Create a space for spirit to speak and listen. Be the ones who hear. And know you are always heard. Wake up. Everybody wake up in this life. Listen. In the stillness. With your heart. In love and in light. Create that space between. Listen.
Call on me.
I will be there.
With truth.
And light.
And love.
Namaste.